Austin for 25 years, and that was one of the main things I wanted to talk to you about. So I assume that's Austin is where you hooked up or got to know about Alex Jones. And what year was that you first met Alex Jones? And then talk about how you got into that world and how you came to know who he was.
Gosh, I remember Alex as a youngin'. He was very young. I think he was probably 24, 25 years old when we first met. He was just starting out in radio. I was working at a radio station. Get this, the call letters were KLBJ.
Oh,
That's the big talk radio station down there in Austin, KLBJ. And it was actually owned by Lyndon Johnson and his family. Interestingly enough, it was the only radio station I ever worked at where the Secret Service was in the hallways.
wow.
Anytime the Johnson family was in the building, when Lady Bird or Lucy Johnson were in the building, we'd always have the men in black standing around in the hallways. It was crazy working at a radio station with Secret Service everywhere. So I was at KLBJ, and there was a competitor talk station across town called KJFK.
Oh, wow.
So you get the whole JFK, LBJ
That's
thing, right?
That's some craziness.
And that's how Alex got started. He started out on this radio station, KJFK. So in the beginning, we kind of met through radio, and we were competitors. And then I was also spending a lot of time down at our local cable TV public access station. Austin Access Cable Television, one of the best in the country before the internet, mind you. This is back in the 90s when the only free speech platform was your local public access TV station, right? That's where you'd find a lot of political stuff that you'd never see on ABC or CNN or Fox. So Alex had a show, and it was called InfoWars back then. It was the beginning of InfoWars, and he started it on cable access television. But back then, Alex was young and skinny and
he was totally Chad. Yeah, I was a bodybuilder, Laura. I had nice blonde hair. I was a bodybuilder.
It's true.
Yeah. Oh no, I've seen.
Absolutely true.
I mean, he was the thirst back in the day. Young Emmerich don't sleep on that. There's some great photos of him from back in the day. So it was at about 91 or 92 you first met him?
Oh no, this would have been like 96, 97, around there.
96. Okay.
So I guess you'd say I've known him more than a quarter century, and I watched Alex evolve, from a local guy on public access television to the story that really made him famous was when he and his cameraman, Mike Hansen, went out to the Bohemian Grove. That was in the year 2000, and they snuck in with a secret camera and recorded the cremation of care ceremony. You guys have probably seen that. Dark Secrets. And
I went in there. I blew the thing wide open, Lori. Okay, I blew the thing open. I brought in a camera guy. I went to the hillbilly cabin. I had a bunch of gay Republicans trying to solicit me for sex. They wanted me to make them chili topless wearing a coconut bra with Henry Kissinger. I said, no, I will not submit to Satan.
You obviously you're familiar with that film because you just quoted it perfectly.
That was that was the gateway for me. So late high school, I graduated high school in 2005, and I was still a normie, John Kerry Democrat at that point. I supported him and volunteered on his campaign, got him to come to my high school, all that good stuff. And I started, and plus I was into researching 9/11 because I had an uncle who was telling me all about how 9/11 was fishy and you should look into it. And that was like the pipeline to Alex Jones. So that's probably 04, 05 when I first heard about Alex Jones. And there's that great clip of him at the Republican National Convention in 04 in New York where he gets in David Gergen's face. He goes, Mr. Gergen. And he goes, he asked him a couple softballs to get him engaged. And he goes, what you're doing up at the Bohemian Grove, weeping spiders coming out here. And Gergen's like, you were there with an understanding not to say anything. He's like, no, I wasn't. Emmerich plays cutesy with him. And he's like, that's ambush journalism. And I don't respect you for this.
I remember.
And that's when I was like, dude, this Alex Jones guy is off the charts.
It was beautiful.
It was awesome. I love that kind of stuff. So that's the Emmerich that my brother and I, really first fell in love with and got to know.
And that's where Luke Radowski got his start. He's big now because he's on Timcast with
We Are
Tim Pool.
Change. My brother and I have known Luke
started with We Are
Radowski
Change
since '06.
Yep.
I remember him when he was a 9/11 truth activist and getting in the face of all the politicians. My brother and I did that here in New Hampshire with our friend. When we were in college, we would bring a camera and ask them questions about the Iraq War and a new 9/11 investigation and stuff like that. So we were doing that while Luke was doing it in New York and all around. But
and that was in the early days of the internet. So when a video went viral back then, I mean, it really, really went viral.
Yeah. Oh, it blew up for sure. Yeah. So yeah, those are my earliest memories of Emmerich. And then, I followed him through college, and then he really reached, for those who knew independent news or off the beaten path stuff, everyone knows Alex Jones, but he really reached critical mass with the 2016 election and becoming, the huge Trump booster he was, and teaming up with Roger Stone and getting in there. So I know I went off track there. So you ended up though meeting him and then working for him officially, like you worked for InfoWars. What was your job?
I did not work for InfoWars. I did some contract work for Alex, did some ghost writing and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And so I've spent hours and hours and hours with Alex off camera doing not just interviews, but social time. We did a lot. We have a lot of drinks together back in the day. And let me tell you, Alex is a funny guy. When you get a couple of drinks in Alex, he is so much fun to hang out with. Whether you love or hate Alex Jones, trust me, if you sat down with him and had a beer with him, or two or three, you would come out hugging him at the end and going, I love you, man. He's a really, really fun guy. And I'm glad to see that he's survived the Sandy Hook business. And I hope that he survives the bankruptcy proceedings. I hope he can continue to keep InfoWars going, because we really do need what he does.
That's really well said, Lori. And that's always been my posture on Alex Jones, is if you are a true believer in the First Amendment, and Jesse Ventura says this, First Amendment don't exist to protect popular speech. It's there to protect things that are unpopular and shouldn't be said, but need to be said, Lori.
And Ron Paul says pretty much the same thing. His take on it was, we don't have the First Amendment so we can talk about the weather.
That's right.
We have the First Amendment so we can talk about controversial things.
Yeah, and we're adults here. And look, Alex Jones, he does what he does. He's also an entertainer. He's one of the greatest showmen who ever lived.
Yes, he is.
And that's why I think he was so big on Trump, because he saw a lot of what he had been doing for so long, and now Trump was doing it.
That's a great obseration and very true.
Yeah, you got to admire the pitchmen, like Billy Mays and OxyClean meets, Glengarry Ross, like a used car salesman, multi-level real estate salesman with a reality TV clown thrown in there. And it's just the greatest show on earth.
And yet there's so much truth packed in there with all that comedy.
That's what I was.
All the absurdity. There's real truth to be found.
There is. And the surrealist absurdism and sounding like you're totally off your rocker. A lot of times those are the people. Pay attention to what those people are saying,
right?
Because they're behind that facade. And I did this with my Trump act, when I would dress like Trump and go in front of crowds of people and do stuff. There's that front facade, but behind that, there's years and years of real research and real consideration and thought about geopolitics, about history, about the hidden history of our country and the world and the way foreign policy works. And when you are an outrageous personality like a Donald Trump or an Alex Jones, you get attention. And when you have that attention, it's what you say and do that matters. And of course, Alex didn't get it right all the time, and he said a lot of crazy stuff. And then
that's why he got sued over Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
Oops.
And he went on Rogan. He did the mea culpa. Look, I apologize for it. Okay, I wasn't the only one who was talking about it. But just for that one thing that's going to totally destroy everything that he's ever done or said, I think that's fair. I think that's absurd, and you shouldn't apply that to anybody in your life. We think about your own friends and your family in your life when they I don't know, said something outrageous or had a spell or something happened, you're going to just forsake them and abandon them. Now, look, I'm critical of Alex Jones. A lot of the stuff he said about 9/11, was sensational and led people on a wild goose chase. Because when you get people who haven't done 20 years of research into something like 9/11 and their entryway is Alex Jones talking about just building 7 and just controlled demolitions and just a missile at the Pentagon, to me, that's leading them down a bad path. So I would love to see, there's some people I would love to see Alex talk to, specifically about 9/11. My friend Adam Fitzgerald, who is, in my opinion, one of the greatest living 9/11 researchers that we have. This guy just spends hours and hours going through actual documents, going through court dispositions, reviewing old videos. I mean, he is a living encyclopedia of knowledge about 9/11. And
funny
of course,
story. If I can share this story, you'll like
sure.
this. On 9/11, 2001, I was listening to Alex Jones live on the GCN radio network. I will never forget that day when I saw the planes go into the towers. I was watching Fox or CNN or something, and I thought, oh, it's that time of day. Alex is on the air, right? I got to turn on the radio and see what the hell Alex Jones has to say about this, because I remember about 2.5 months before 9/11, Alex basically predicted it. And I don't know if you've ever seen the video, but it was on his local cable access TV show. And it was in July of 2001. I was watching that day. And he said, there's going to be a major terror attack in the United States, and they're going to blame it on bin Laden. Boom. And then 2.5 months later, it happened. So I remembered that. When I saw it happen, I was like, holy crap, Alex told us about this. So I tuned in and I listened. And, Alex was just free-forming it. He was on the air just kind of describing what he saw. And, I went back and listened to that broadcast again not long ago. It's really amazing how much he got right. I mean, he didn't get everything right.
Yeah.
You couldn't expect. I mean, the mainstream media made all kinds of goofs on 9/11. Remember, they said that the State Department had been bombed and all this phony stuff that didn't happen based on rumors and, not information that was hard information. But Alex really got it mostly right that day. And it's a broadcast that I will never forget. It's a historic broadcast, and everybody ought to go listen to it. It's out there.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I've seen that. I've seen where he talked about a boogeyman being blamed for these attacks. Yep. And then on the day of, he said, call the White House, tell them we know it was them. We know this is going to be a pretext for all-out invasion and overthrow of regimes in Iraq. And
he was right.
The Middle East.
That's what happened.
I know. He was right on about that.